It's a great pleasure for me to talk about men are from Mars, women are from Venus. There are so many unnecessary losses of people who truly love each other and they can't make their relationship work. And they figure, you know, we're just too different. And when somebody comes along and explains, you're supposed to be too different, then what happens is hope occurs. Oh. And when you have hope that maybe you can have a successful relationship, maybe you can get your needs met, even though you're so different, when hope arises, our hearts open and we begin to feel love again. And it is love that saves those relationships. It is love that gives meaning to our lives. You can have all the success in the world, but if you don't have love, friendly, loving, compassionate, supporting relationships, you cannot enjoy your success. The real issue in relationships is how we communicate. Men typically communicate the way men do. And it happens to be a totally different language than women communicate. Women communicate in a totally different way. The problem is we use the same words, but they have different meanings. I say to my wife, honey, what's the matter? And she says, nothing. I assume that's what she means. So I go, okay, I'll watch TV. And she goes, he doesn't even care. You see, when a woman says nothing's the matter, what she means in her language is, something's the matter, and if you care, you'll ask me more questions. And so when he doesn't ask more questions, she thinks he doesn't care. When you ask a man, what's wrong, he says nothing. He means nothing's wrong. And then women go, okay, it's my job now to ask him a lot of questions. He gets so annoyed. Why is she asking me all these questions? Women love to communicate. And if they don't love to communicate, and some women don't, it's because they tried communicating and the way in which he communicated back didn't work for her. So she goes, I can't talk to him. He doesn't listen. He doesn't understand. Why bother? I remember one woman saying to me, you know, I don't relate to this Mars-Venus stuff because I don't ever want to talk to my husband. I don't talk about problems like you say women do. I go, really? Well, think about that. Do you talk to some people? Well, yeah, I'm always talking to other people about my problem with my husband. So why does she talk to him? Because he doesn't listen. And what I want couples to know is that communication is what keeps the passion alive in a relationship. The problem is that even if you don't have good communication skills, in the first 3 years of a relationship, there will be passion. There will be attraction. But if you don't have good communication skills, if you don't develop them in that time, the passion will go away. Literally, it's like God gives us free hormones for 3 years. The hormones of passion and attraction. And without those hormones, the relationship starts settling down, the passion goes away, the interest goes away. You start finding when you're less interested in your partner that you put less into the relationship. And I'm speaking more a bit about men here. Men tend to lose interest in the relationship. Women tend to have more interest in complaining about the relationship. It's amazing, women, you have to watch. Your greatest skill can become your greatest problem. Women see everything. When they fall in love with a man, they see him and they see all of his potential. So they're so happy. 3 years passes, reality sets in. And suddenly, she doesn't have the same response to him because in the beginning when she was in love, she really didn't know who he was. She saw all this great potential. Then after he's been late 30 times, she goes, there's nothing going to change this guy. And so her feelings start becoming less and less. But potential's a great thing. It's what gives us hope. And women will often see a man's potential, fall in love with that potential, but then they'll try to pull that potential out of him and have the opposite effect. One of the chapters in Men Are From Mars is describing women is called the Home Improvement Committee. When a woman loves a man, this gene inside of women, and men don't have it, it's called the improvement gene. No matter how good something is, it can always be improved, right? Well, women have that gene, men don't. A man's gene says, the Martian gene is if something works, don't mess with it. From a woman's point of view, if something works, let's see how much better we can make it work. So it's like, let's improve it. Let's change it. So a woman falls in love with a man. She goes, okay, now how are we going to change him? Men and women are so different when we get married. A woman's thinking, okay, now we're married. Now things are going to change. Now my love will bring out the best of him. Now I can improve him. Men get married, they think just the opposite. They go, dear God, please don't change anything. See, we don't want you to change at all. We want you to stay the same. Women want us to change. The truth is, women, you have a huge power to change a man. Women bring out the best in men, but they're not trained how to not get in their way. The way women try to improve men tends to cause men to not change. So you put that little gene, okay, now I'm going to improve him, and you focus on him, and you form the home improvement committee, and he's the target. And anytime you give a man unsolicited advice, anytime you tell a man to do something or suggest something better that he could do, he'll go the other direction. You just have to know that about men. How many men can relate to that a little bit? You know that? And remember, only half the men are raising their hand. The other's like, I'm afraid to talk about it. We'll have another conversation. Women, we'll have more conversation about that. But how many women feel that irresistible urge to try to improve your partner? Raise your hands. Be proud of it. You're women. That's what you do. And if you're not even aware of it, become aware of it. Because it's one of the biggest sabotaging things you can do in a relationship. Your husband's tie's not right. Let somebody else point it out to him. Unless he says to you, do you think my tie looks good? He's eating a meal and he's ordering a dessert, and you look at him like you're his mother. You know what the doctor said? You shouldn't be eating that. How can he have passion for you that night? How can he feel connected to you? Suddenly you're treating him like a child. And some women say, but he behaves like a child. I say, if you treat him like a child, he'll behave like a child. But women tend to give unsolicited advice. How can I help him? Let me suggest this. Let me suggest this. Let me suggest this. And what you unknowingly do is push away the man you love the most in life. Now, what men do is just almost the same, but with a different twist, almost an opposite twist. Men want to give advice to women, not about so much what you should do, or some of us will do that, but generally what we want to give women advice about is how you should feel. And women, you know how much you hate that. You're upset. He says, oh, you shouldn't be upset. How many women can relate to men doing that to you? Raise your hands. Now, I'm going to 2 hands if you hate it. Raise your hands. Men don't understand how sensitive women are about this issue. If I'm talking to another guy and he's upset about something, I can easily say, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. It's tomorrow. They go, okay, well, have a drink and watch TV. It's no like big issue. Try saying that to your wife. She won't be your wife for long. She's upset about you, say something, you say, honey, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. You're making a big deal of it. Just forget it. We'll deal with it tomorrow. And she's going to feel so hurt by that. She's going to feel so angry about that. You're trying to tell her she shouldn't be upset. And when you do that, men, what you should know is the more you try to tell a woman how she should feel, the longer she's going to feel that way that you're trying to change. So don't feel that way. She's going to feel that way. If she's in a bad mood and you tell her she shouldn't be in a bad mood, she's going to stay in a bad mood until you're in a bad mood. Men's feelings are always sensitive about, was he successful in making you happy? Was he successful in making you happy? So I could have a terrible trip. I could have an awful business week. I could be down and out. I could be, on a deadline and I'm exhausted and tired. My wife can completely uplift me, which is, I want to just give this one point, because just give women a sense of how you can support a man. You could go, oh, honey, I'm so sorry. You look so sad and tired. That does nothing for a man. But what she did, and I pointed out to her because it worked so well, she looked at me and she says, wow, I'm so glad I don't have your job. Well, yep.